All right, thanks, Senator Uyghur. Let's move into the business portion of our meeting, starting with the agenda review. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We will move into the Secretary's report, followed by the Treasurer's report. If Deb and Tom are here. Is Tom here?
Good morning, everyone. If you turn your attention, please, to the green sheets in your packet, I would appreciate that. If I do have your name correctly spelled, please let me know that, or if I missed your attendance, also let me know that. Our program the last time was with Commissioner Brenda Casilius. Dr. Casilius focused her attention mostly on ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act, which is the new Elementary and Secondary Act. She also talked about the world's best workforce and the assessment system that may be coming out of that new direction with ESSA. If you turn the page, you will see at the very top the other topics that she discussed. As we all know, early learning, the teacher shortage, cross-subsidy of special education are very important to all of us, along with Title I funding. She mentioned fee policies, and she also discussed QComp. And then she, of course, fielded questions from the floor. Going further down, you will note that under the Treasurer's report, our financials remain on track, and we had a clean audit. So congratulations to our C staff, especially Dick Berge, for making sure that we have a clean audit on an annual basis. Then Chair Bailey of the Legislative Committee talked at length about the draft platform, and we had really robust discussion, I would say. Some of the most important feedback that I've seen in my 9 years in C, and we made some recommendations to amend the platform, and so those recommendations were approved on the floor. And because our discussion went on so long, we did not have a report from Deb Griffiths. We did have a report from our Executive Director, Brad Lundell, who talked about his visits across the state and about how he's working hard to make sure that tax relief and the appropriate legislation is talked in the tax committee and not combined with education issues. And then finally, we heard from our Speaker of the House, Kurt Dowd, and Representative Bob Barrett, who represents Chisago County, most of it. And they talked a lot about what they see happening in the upcoming legislative session. And they made some pretty powerful statements, which I included in the minutes for you because, as you know, we have a governor that wants universal pre-K, and our speaker is saying that there is no way that that will happen and that people simply don't want it. So it's there for your reference. Are there any edits to the minutes that are necessary? I will field a motion for approval of the minutes. Is there a second? Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Morning. We have another very boring Treasurer's report. Boring is good when it comes to financials. So before we get started, we'd like to acknowledge our friends and colleagues up the road from us, Northfield. Their girls' hockey team upended the Owatonna Huskies last night in a heartbreaking loss for us. Congratulations to them. Before the game started, Northfield had their band there, right? We had our band there too. And Northfield's fight song, or the school song, is the Minnesota Rouser. So they start the Minnesota Rouser, and my wife turns to me and she says, "That's not fair. How did they get the Rouser?" You know? So it was a great game. So congratulations to Chris and Matt. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. All right. So if you'd be so kind to turn your attention to the Canary Yellow document in your packet. First thing we'll take a look at is our profit and loss budget to actual. And, you know, what we always like to do here is we look at how far are we through the year. We're about 58% of the way through the year, 7 months. We know that our budget here at C is very consistent, very linear at about $22,000 a month. And so we would expect to be at about 58% of the way through with our budget, and we are. And I think if you turn to the back page there, we're 57. So we're on track to plan. That's the good news. The other thing, if you want to take a look, backtrack a little bit, on the revenue side, we're at 99%, it says. Dick shared with us last week, and it reminded me again this morning. We just received, Dick, three other checks, membership checks. So that number is going to increase. It's not negative 2637, but actually add about $4,800 to that. So we're actually positive there on the revenue side. Turning to the third page then, the balance sheet, again, that's just a snapshot of our as our paying our bills and where we are with our checking savings balances at this time. And that, of course, that'll dwindle down through the years as we pay our bills over the next 5 months. And we're on track of our budget plan, and we'll end the year somewhere around reserves of about $106,000, which is about 40% of our reserves, or what we would call a school people fund balance, right? So with that, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve our financial and treasurer's report. Motion? Thank you. Is there a second? Second? Thank you. Any further questions or discussion on this topic? Okay. Hearing none, then we'll vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed? No opposed. The motion passes. Thank you very much. The treasurer's report is approved.
All right, thank you, Tom. We'll move into the executive board report. Executive board met last week. Had a little problem establishing a quorum initially, but we were able to get there. We went through treasurer's report, and as Tom just went through, our spending is on track where we want it to be. Moving into old business, we did get an update from Deb on the C website. If you remember, we were looking at introducing a members-only area, a password-protected members-only area, to put some of our documents in. Deb spent some time looking at options, kind of trying to keep our priorities in mind. And looking at the different website builders that were out there, she wasn't able to find anything that met kind of all of the requirements we were looking at, something that was easy to use, something that was had a file organization, a structure so that it was easy to find documents, and something that was easy to maintain. So the executive board made the decision for this time, for the time being, to stay with our current website and to kind of bypass the secure area for now. We moved into new business. We reviewed and approved the fiscal year 2015 audit by MMRK. We had presentation of the preliminary budget for 2016-17. That preliminary budget right now shows roughly $19,500 deficit. So the executive board spent quite a bit of time talking about different topics, member recruitment and retention. As well as staff salaries, different things like that, and possible fee increases that we will look at all of the options and try to find a very balanced solution to get as close to a balanced budget as we can. We'll continue that discussion in our April meeting. And then we moved into the executive director's report, and won't take most of Brad's thunder. Basically said C's in reasonably good shape for 2016. And he mentioned he's working with other organizations on some key priorities already, and I will leave the details to Brad, and expect a fast and furious session all the way through the mandated adjournment. So, are there any questions? New membership yet? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. We looked at retiring superintendents have an interest in membership, and so the executive board did talk about options there, and I believe the decision was 1/3 of associate membership will be an option for retired superintendents that are interested in attending C meetings. Does that summarize it? Okay. All right. We'll move into the communications and community outreach report. Deb.
So, beginning with grassroots advocacy, at the front of your packet today was See Days of the Capitol. And as you heard from Senator Uyghur, I do believe they make a big impact. The year that we did the video, which was for equalization, we went around with pizza boxes. I had a whole bunch of pizza boxes in my office. And in the front of it, the menu showed the difference of cost between what a low property wealth and a high property wealth district came, and we delivered our platform in that. And the following year when I went back, I saw like 5 of them still in their offices, and one of the legislators said to me, I took this pizza box and I brought it to the speaker's office because he needs to pay attention to this. So, but when we come with with parents and with community members and school board members and superintendents, whatever blend we can get, and we walk around the Capitol, and I take care of everything. So your district has been scheduled. You can see that there. Please make every effort you can to bring people down to the Capitol. It's super easy, so if you're talking to parents or community members, I take care of everything. We just meet in the transportation building at 9:45, and honestly, I do feel like Little Bo Peep with her sheep because I'm walking through the offices, but we have a good time. It's very informative, and it's very impactful to the legislators for people to take time out of their day to come down to the Capitol, and even if they don't have to say anything, because I have no trouble filling up the dead silence with my talking, but I try to let them talk. But it educates the parents and the community members, as well as educating our legislators on our key issues. So please try to find people to come down to the Capitol, and I look forward to doing that because that's really a lot of fun. Secondly, on the back of the packet on the blue is the regional meetings, and we have those scheduled. I had sent out on Monday the registration link on all those, so hopefully you guys can come. We'll be updating you on what's happening at the legislature. And then finally, I just want to throw out there again that I am available and happy to come out to your districts to talk with any groups. I have a presentation called Why Our Schools Continue to Struggle and what you can do to help. I gave it at a work session in Rockford and got very good reviews. It's got a lot of just the basics of why we get so far behind. The basic formula has not kept up with inflation and our equalization piece. And I think it's very good for people to see that, even though it's a lot of information. So if you have new boards coming on, or even a refresher for your existing board members to kind of look at those key points again. So I'd love to come out to your districts and keep that in mind. So if you are interested, just let me know. So that's all I have. So I will, unless anybody has any questions, we'll turn it over to Brad.
Well, good morning, everybody. First and foremost, it's good to be back in the United States. I've been back for 2 weeks, but for those of you who don't know, I was on a 2-week mission trip to Slovakia. And just for those of you who follow such things, I want you to know that the nationwide teacher strike that is taking place in Slovakia, I had nothing to do with that. It happened a week after I got there, but no, and there are no pictures of me in Bratislava, but there is a picture of me on the Roseville Lutheran Church website with a sledgehammer knocking down a wall in a building we were rehabbing. So it was, I put it this way, it was very relaxing after hours and hours of sledgehammering. I was pretty mellow, so which is always a good thing. Again, it's great to see a good crowd here again today. It's back to work. The legislature is going to be starting up within the next month. The next time we assemble as a whole organization here in April, it'll be probably much after the deadlines in the legislative, and so we'll have a good idea. I think Senator Uyghur provided some good background today as to what might be happening in terms of the overarching themes and those types of things. In our regional meetings, we'll be kind of in the thick of the discussion, the legislative discussion. Things are going to go, I would say, they've shortened the timeline this year, going in March 8th, but they will go till the end of May. They just can't seem to help themselves there, and I think that even though they've got sort of a shorter laundry list of things to do this year, that doesn't mean that these things can't be dissected and discussed and fought about up until the very end. It is going to be an abbreviated to-do list. I think right now the things that we're hearing, and again, Senator Uyghur pointed this out, the bonding bill is probably the most likely thing to happen. I'm less convinced on transportation than Senator Uyghur is. I think it's interesting, one of the little kind of inside baseball things is that the governor has kind of poo-pooed the gas tax increase while the Senate, kind of left saying we did want that gas tax increase. And it'll be interesting to see, I don't know how much you can do. I mean, you can do a lot with $1.2 billion, but if you start spending that for ongoing transportation needs, you run out of money in a hurry, because we obviously know the infrastructure needs in this country and in this state are much greater than that amount of money. The Republicans in the House, if you see Representative Drazkowski's door, it's been featured several times on the news media and also on Twitter and everything. There's a sign on Representative Drazkowski's door. It said, "Government was funded in the 2015 session. If you're looking for money for programs, come back in 2017. So, I mean, that's kind of his blunt assessment of where he's going, and he's a fairly influential member of the House of Representatives. He really wants to do more in terms of tax cutting. We've worked with him somewhat on the debt service piece. He's also, he's a proponent of giving money directly to ag property, and so that's another thing that he's working on. He's got a credit program that fits with that, but that, again, is something outside of the equalization programs, and it does nothing. I think one of the things that we're trying to convince him is that that's a great thing standing on its own, but just because you do that doesn't mean you shouldn't necessarily look at these other equalization programs, because there's a lot of districts that don't have a lot of agricultural property that are property poor for a variety of reasons, and they need the greater equalization, and we certainly want to convince him that that's the way that he should proceed down that road. Again, what will happen? I mean, what we'll see with the February forecast, again, as Senator Uyghur said, is going to give us the parameters. And just looking at Wall Street, I haven't checked my phone today to see how what it would be my 201K is doing today. But I guess the thing is I think one of the things we're seeing, and this could be the disconnect between Wall Street and Main Street. We see employment numbers going up, but earnings are down. Earnings, middle-class earnings aren't really picking up. Profits remain high, so there's this difference between what happens on Wall Street and what's happening on employment markets locally, and are people working, and are they paying taxes, and what that means to the state economy. I'm guessing, like in Senator Uyghur's case, as he said, that we're probably going to be looking at a forecast pretty much in the range where we're at in November, but the risk of going forward is probably higher, and I think that risk is the thing that scares legislators more than anything else. Going back to 2011, when we were looking at a $6 billion deficit, and the education, the tax shift or the payment shift went up to about, 60% or 40%. That went up that high, I think that, and that's off the table now. So next time that they have to come up with a budget deficit, it's going to come out of people's hides. It's not going to come out of the funding shift, or maybe it'll come out of the funding shift, or we can convince them that that's better than money coming right out of the base. But given that that was such a political football in 2012, there's going to be a lot of reluctance, I think, on both parties to use that, because it is a misleading thing, because, again, you getting your money, you're obviously having to borrow in some cases, but that borrowing, especially with interest rates where they're at right now, not that it's good policy, it's certainly better than having $10 or $20 taken off your basic formula. So one of the things we're looking at, and this is a 2017 issue rather than a 2016 issue, but one of the things we need to talk to legislators is to keep as much flexibility in place as they can. The issues, again, we're waiting on the governor. What's going to happen with the early childhood education piece? We're hearing from, I got an email the other day from someone in the department who works on transportation issues, wondering what school districts think about transportation in regard to early childhood. That makes me think that early childhood is being talked about over at the department, and they're trying to cover all their bases. So there will be something coming in that area. I was surprised that Senator Uyghur didn't talk a little bit more about his proposal that he came up with that goes about halfway to where the governor's at. and does some things that provide more district flexibility. I think he puts it at a 0.6 weighting as opposed to a 1.0 weighting. But again, it doesn't do, there are still the issues of availability of licensed teachers, transportation, and of course, for many of the districts here, the space concerns. And one of the things that Senator Uyghur's proposal does is it equalizes the lease levy. Well, that does some good things for those districts that are leasing, but many districts don't have access to leased property or appropriate leased property, and so that makes there's an issue there as well. You equalize the levy that you really can't use. So I think that there are, as we look at the early childhood issue, and again, this is kind of a non-starter on the other side of the street, as we've heard from numerous Republicans, and my guess is you talk to your Republican legislators in your districts, they're probably saying the same thing. This is just something that they're not interested in doing, and so, go from there. That really puts, I think, as we move down into what are our other priorities, this has not been a high priority. We want early childhood done right, and it is a priority for us, but I think some of the other issues that we're looking at in terms of the equalization and also in terms of special ed cross-subsidy and the TD&E, as Ken talked about in his question to Senator Uyghur, I think one of the things we need to do is work with other organizations. Well, on the equalization, I've been working very closely with both the AMSD and MREA. We've been meeting with legislators. We've been convincing Republican legislators, if you roll out that debt service equalization or referendum equalization data runs that we have on the website, show them to your legislators and say, you get a lot of money out of this. Maybe you should think this is something you should think about doing. I think we just need to continually convince them that this is good policy that delivers tax relief to their districts. I don't think the governor's going to go along with some of the more ambitious things that the House is talking about with getting rid of the tax on Social Security, those types of things. They're very expensive. I think Lori Sturdivant's article about a month ago in the Star Trib talked about how it's not, I think was it 65% of Social Security income is not taxed now. So obviously you're looking at higher income earners that are getting Social Security, so there is some issues there that play out, and I think that it's just one of these things that the governor's not going to be interested in doing. Teacher shortage, Rob's done a great job for us. Rob from Hinckley Finlayson's done a good job kind of putting together our piece on the teacher shortage, and I think that's something we're going to talk about, and I think something that may see some progress on. But again, higher ed needs to be at the table on that as we look at that, because it's simply just not something that's the K-12 system is going to be able to do much without a lot of help from the higher ed system. I think the other thing with this year is Senator Uyghur pointed out there's going to be one big bill. It'll likely be one big bill as opposed to each section of the state government having its own bill. There'll be a supplemental budget bill. We'll see what the House does in terms of the supplemental budget bill, if they even pursue one. But generally, then this gets done at the 30,000-foot level, as he said. Senator Dick Cohen and Representative Jim Knobloch as the Ways and Means and Senate Finance chairs, convene a conference committee that will be, and hopefully Senator Uyghur and Representative Loon will be on it, representing education, but there'll be Tony Laurie and whoever the House person is on Health and Human Service, probably someone on transport, Scott Dibble and Tim Kelly on the transportation piece. And it'll be like a conference committee where it'll be another one of these 500 pagers where you kind of go for your section and kind of, get out the magnifying glass and see how much money you're getting or not getting. I think that we're, again, working with these other organizations. I think Education Minnesota, we're working closely with them on the TD&E piece. They're kind of taking for the districts that aren't QComp districts, Education Minnesota is coming forward with a proposal. They've been keeping us in the loop on that from the get-go, and it's about, I guess the question now is how much, what will be available in terms of resources, and will that be something that will be phased in, will be something coming in for the current fiscal year, will be waited to the next biennium. Those are kinds of details that we have yet to handle. But I think that again, we just have to see what are the resources that are going to be available and what's the appetite going to be for that. I know that in the Senate's case, There is some appetite for this. I think, again, the House is going to be, I wouldn't say problematic, I mean, because it'll just be what their decision is to do, you know, are they going to do a supplemental bill, and is this something that they would be interested in doing? They want to give it back. Again, they've got some big-ticket tax items that probably aren't going to, you know, catch much root anywhere else. And that's where I think we have to take that opportunity to convince them there are some tax things that they can do that are good policy. It's money for education. It's money to help with, you know, facilities, and money to help with the operations. These are things that they can all step up and do. Because we have, you know, in this organization, we're so heavily represented by Republican legislators, and it's very, very important that we talk about possibilities with them. And I think that's where, again, we've got about 40 members of the House IR caucus that are beneficiaries of any equalization. And I think that to, again, get those folks talking to the tax chair to say, these are programs that work for us. We can go back to our district and say we did something for our taxpayers. And again, it helps, again, with the bonus of saying this money helps with education. After this, of course, after the session ends on, I'm guessing May 23rd. It has to be midnight, May 23rd, the first Monday after the third Saturday in May, for those of you who know the Constitution. That has to end at midnight because it's unlike, there's no legislative day involved here. It has to end. The curtain comes down at 11:59:59. Then we go into the election season, as we're seeing so far on both the Democratic and Republican sides nationally, all kinds of fun and discussions. I don't know about your email boxes, but over the years I've had to give money to both sides. And I got my first email from John Kasich on Wednesday morning, ironically. I hadn't gotten anything from him until the New Hampshire results came in. But you know, Ben Carson still emails every now and then, and Nancy Pelosi gives me an email. I've probably got 10 from her today. So, but I guess we're seeing, I don't know, I somehow got on this email list, and Nancy Pelosi is writing me every 3-4 times a day, and the world's coming to an end. I just want to let you guys know that. So, but I would say, so we've got a really, who knows what's going to happen in terms of national ticket. Again, one of the things this year that's going to be very unique in Minnesota is that it's the presidential race, the congressional races, and then the legislative races. No gubernatorial race, no other statewide candidate races, no U.S. Senate races. So how that money is parceled out between interest groups to get their sides elected is going to be really, really interesting. And I think this has to be, as we make progress, how much progress we make, if we make progress during the 2016 session, that has to parlay into the election season, talking with candidates, not in a partisan sense, but to educate them as to what this organization's about with tax fairness, the need for tax fairness, and then to get those things moving and continuing moving. We've had some progress over the last few years, but we need to really renew that progress, and I think this year is a year that we can do that. I did want to mention, and Scott talked to this, we've created a new membership category. I've been talked to several superintendents as they've left the organization upon their retirement. I've asked over the years, what about creating an individual membership? We did create that membership at the C Executive Committee, last C Executive Committee. It's 1/3 the cost of what the cooperatives pay. The cooperatives pay $675, so divided by 3, $225. We're going to monitor closely what those people eat at the buffet, so to make sure that they're not taking no doggy bag. But I guess so. But again, for those of you, both in the past, folks that are interested, if you know of superintendents that have been members of this organization, we'll be broadcasting to some of that. I think it's a non-voting membership. It's just a way, I think, to keep some people who have been involved. This is not just superintendents, it's board members as well, board members who have left their boards locally. We're going to say if you want to put that $225 down, you can attend meetings in a non-voting capacity and share your insight and also listen to the programs that we provide. But I think it's a good way for us to have kind of our past and our future meld together and tap into some expertise that should prove helpful. Paul? Mhm. Right. Right now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to send out an email to every one of them with the individual district runs showing this is what your district is, this is what they receive under the debt service equalization that we're talking about. We can also do one on referendum equalization as well, and we will. The other thing we'll do is that Representative Bob Barrett is organizing a meeting for all Republican legislators that benefit from the debt service equalization. That'll probably take place the first week of the legislative session. I'm also contacting the governor's office. I know that in talking to Senator Dahl last week, he said that Tom Melcher had told him, or someone had told him that, they asked Tom what his next priority was for the facilities piece, and Tom said the debt service equalization was, he thought, the best next step. And I think that's again, we don't know what's going to be in the governor's budget. We're going to find out the first week of March, but there may be some movement there to at least, have that kind of on a back burner to say this is a place where we can all meet. But those are some of the things that we're going to be doing. We want to make sure to get these numbers in the hands of individual legislators, and I'll be getting those out. Deb has these numbers on the website, and we've got them organized by legislator, and so it's quite easy to get the. And I've got that caucus on a listserv, and so I'm going to be getting. Again, I'm going to kind of get it down to individual members and make sure that they know exactly what this means to their districts. Any other questions? We've got our next speakers here, and I, like Deb, I'll certainly come out to districts, but I am embarrassed to say I missed the meeting that I was signed up for, and again, that's on me. So I guess going forward, it's always I'll do better. But I guess one of the things is I'm trying to get out to as many districts as I can get out to, and certainly if you want to put me on your list, and I've got a good less than 10-minute presentation I can give, so that I don't take up time for more important things at board meetings. So, and as I see Chris smirking, saying I can't do anything less than 10 minutes, but. Well, right. It was a very interesting trip, and just as teachers in Slovakia, the highest paid teachers make about 18,000 euros per year, which is about, and they've got a 55% individual flat tax rate, and so they were taking home 600 euros a month. So and rent's about 400 euros a month. So. It's not a get rich. It's not a get rich profession in Slovakia. But okay, well we've got. Again, thanks for everybody being here today, and please let me know what I can help as we move forward. Jennifer Dugan has joined us today. She was going to be on a panel with Dave Heisted, but Dave has had a family emergency and is unable to join us today. But Jennifer Dugan's the Director of Research and Assessment at MDE, and she's been a very, very, what would I say, you talk at the legislature quite a bit. You're called upon often for your expertise, and I think. You don't have a parking place. Not even in the new building. Hey, in the new building, it's really nice, but I just couldn't find the Grecian statues and the reflecting pool and the large fountain and stuff like that. It's just nowhere to be seen over there. I was kind of expecting that, but anyway, Ms. Dugan really does a lot in terms of our testing and assessment throughout the state, and has got a lot of expertise that we're going to hear about today, especially as we move forward into the new federal law and how that's going to apply in Minnesota. So with that, I'll just turn it over to Jennifer and have at it.